Please next. So yeah, I know. So it's based on a European project, which is called Sustainable Conservation and Restoration of Built Cultural Heritage. And this project is based in a methodology, not in a methodology. And so that goes from a case study and try to find the best restoration or conservation method to apply in this case study. Our goal is to minimize the influence of these restoration or rehabilitation methods on the environment, but taking into account the influence of environment in the materials and in the building. So the methodology we follow is first we did a documentation about the buildings, the techniques, materials, the techniques, construction, the materials, and also all the history the buildings follow. And after that, we do the characterization of the original materials that have been employed in the construction of this building by laboratory techniques and also in situ techniques. And once we know the building and the materials that have been employed, we will decide new materials for the rehabilitation or the restoration. As we are working in two kinds of different built cultural heritage, that means vernacular cultural heritage in Europe and archaeological built cultural heritage in Latin America. That's why we are usually talking about rehabilitation or restoration. So when we create a new product that is done mainly only with natural materials, I mean, we avoid to use chemics or other materials that they are not present, and usually we use traditional materials that have been already employed. So we will test the durability of this material, and we will test it in laboratory or also in field exposition. Because a very important part of sustainability is durability. I mean, we need that the materials can be as long as possible. So if the durability test is not convenient, so we will go back to the design period and say, okay, we have to modify because it's not suitable. So once we decide that durability is okay, so we will measure the environmental footprint of these materials and methods. And we will do it by life cycle assessment of materials and methods. And if the life cycle assessment is not good, we will be back to the design, and it is good. We will go to another part of the project that it's not that this material should be convenient in actual condition, but as we know that the environment is changing, not only climate, but also pollution, that we need to know how this material will behave in future conditions. So we compile all those response functions we found in literature. I know most of you know, but those response functions are functions, usually a formula, mathematical formula, that permit us to quantify, to estimate the weathering with the inputs are climate, I mean temperature, relative humidity, rain, wind, and also atmospheric conditions, I mean pH or pollutant concentration. So the interest of this material is that if we know the environmental condition, we can estimate the weathering or the rate the weathering will produce. For example, if we are talking about recession, material recession, we will see how many microns the material will, how many microns will be lost for 10 years, for example, or 100 years. So once we already know those response function, but we are not interested also only in a continuous change. I mean that the temperature will increase of 2 degrees in 10 years or something like that. But also we are very interested in extreme events, because extreme events are very strong and they will produce a lot of damage to cultural heritage, more than a continuous change. So in this case, we are talking mainly about threshold. I mean, how many years of high rain will occur during 10 years, because these high rainy days will have more influence on the degradation than it's raining if the rain decrease of 2 millimeters during the next 10 years. So once we have all of these, which are existing dose response or the one we are developing, we will apply them to climate modeling. Because, as we said, we wanted that our materials and method will be suitable for actual climate, but also for next future climates. And in this, combining this dose response function and climate modeling, we will have this weathering prediction. If we see that our products are not, it's always one slide, it's not a problem. So the weathering prediction, if it's not good enough, we go back to the design of the product and start the cycle again. If we decide that our product is convenient for present and future conditions, we will go to the validation step. Validation step should be done by conservators or restorers or practitioners, if we are talking about vernacular cultural heritage, also by stakeholders that will approve our materials are good for their village or their houses. And so I'm also by owners, because we are talking about vernacular cultural heritage, which most of them are owned by particulars. So they should be also accepted by the population. So, and if it's okay, we will go to the case study and we will apply it. Next. So I will say that this work is not only mine, but is the work of an intersectional, international, and multidisciplinary group. It's formed by people in Europe, in Latin America, and in Europe, a lot of Italian groups and French group, as CY Cergy University, in the Geosciences lab, and in Heritage, which is a human science laboratory. And we have also the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia, the University of Pavia, ISAC of Bologna, and we have also the DTU University of Copenhagen and the Institute of Geoscience in Madrid, a small company in Spain also, with doing consulting for local and national authorities. And we have also an association, Rampart, who is organizing work camp for restoration of cultural heritage. And in America, we have one university in Bogota, Colombia, who are climatologists, and another university or research center in another part of Mexico, which are working mainly on materials characterization and also in biotechnologies. So next, please. And the case studies are very different. We choose different places due to different construction techniques and also to different climates. So we have the Vexin Français, which is a temperate oceanic climate, and it's mainly a rural area with limestone houses, farms, and so on. We have Patones de Arriba in Madrid area with a climate which is more extreme, and also that have different problematics because it's mainly areas that has been abandoned by population and they are only used during the summer or holidays. Cremona, because we have earth construction, cooked or not. The Aeolian archipelago with dry stone construction. The Château de Coucy, which is a work camp for Rampart, as Perillós work camp, which is a village. And finally, we have also the use of bricks in Danish built cultural heritage. And in America, next, please. We have two sites, Chichen Itza and Oxepul. We choose these two sites because they are very different. Chichen Itza is a very tourist place where the problem is the huge amount of tourists visiting it. And Oxepul, which is in the middle of a tropical forest with much less tourists because there is no water, there is not electricity. And the problem is mainly the biological growth because we are in the middle of a forest, tropical forest. Next, please. So here is the general methodology of the project, and I just focus in one study, which is the sustainability mortars for stone restoration. This work has been done during the PhD of José Díaz that has been financed by the program Make Our Planet Great Again, which is a French program, and also by the University CY. So when we want to produce sustainable mortars, the first thing, as previous interventor said, is that we need to know the life cycle assessment of these mortars. And to know the life cycle assessment of this mortar, to calculate it, we need to look at every stage from the production to the use. That's what I saw in this slide. We have the line production. So for each step of the line production, we need to know the amount of energy we used and also the emission we produce. So we have the mining, we have the separation and storage, calcination, hydratation, and air separation. So for each of these steps, we have the energy consumption and the emission. The same thing for the sand. We have two kinds of sand, calcareous sand and silica sand. And then we go to the fabrication and the disposal after used. So we have the transfer of the raw materials, the electric mixer when we are mixing binder and sand, when we put the water. After that, we have the carbonation. I mean, when the binder, which is area line, is taking CO2 from the atmosphere to calcinate to become again calcite. So this is a negative, this is a negative influence because it's positive for the environment, but it's considered negative in the calculation. And then at the end, when we are not using, when these mortars will be replaced, we have to dispose it, and we will also take into account these aspects. Next, please. So this is the mortars we used, and we use aerial lime, calcareous siliceous sand, calcareous sand mix, and we also used lime paste. And we use some additives that are recycled additives or natural one. So we used grinded glass, chamot, which is a brick powder, and we use cones, and we also use resin obtained from these cones. So what are the results? We go to the next. So this is the result we obtain. We can calculate the global warming potential that these mortars produce. We can also see which is the natural or fossil resource depletion they produce, and also the acidification potential. So what we can see is with this, we see the difference between the operation, the disposal, the transport, and the binder production, that the most important part of the footprint comes from the binder production. And next, please. So in conclusion, we can see that energy consumption and pollution emissions through the life cycle assessment has been determined. The sustainability of the formulated mortars has been estimated considering physical-chemical properties, durability, because I didn't say, but of course we measure all these properties in the mortars we fabricate. The properties and durability of the mortar can be improved using recycled materials, admixture and additive, but always natural one. And at the final of this work, I didn't show it because we don't have enough time, but we create a selection method that can be applied anywhere and to any construction material, only by modifying the ingredient we put in. And it's a work which is in progress. And so now we want to extend this study to the thermal in vernacular or traditional buildings, to the thermal efficacy of the buildings, and also to the acceptability of this method we propose by the population. And thank you. Next, please. So that's all. Thank you very much.